All right, Algebra 1B students. Welcome to part 2 of lesson 10.5 on graphing the square root function. Today we're going to look at graphing the original square root function, square root of x, and then also moving that function to the left, to the right, up, and down as well. So, as a reminder for us, the original square root function is right here, right there. And it always starts, the original function starts at 0, 0. Okay? And then it goes up, starting out kind of steep and then leveling off very, very quickly as it goes towards the right. Okay, so make a couple notes about the original square root graph. First of all, it starts at 0, 0. That's the original square root of x. Original square root graph just means y equals square root of x. Starts at 0, 0, curves up and levels off. Also goes through 1, 1, and 2, 4. Excuse me, 1, 1, and 4, 2. 4, 2, not 2, 4, 4, 2. 1, 1, and 4, 2. 4, 2. Okay. Our lesson today is about moving this square root graph to the left, to the right, up, and down. So we'll deal first with the up and down. Moving that square root graph up and down is relatively simple. All we have to do is add or subtract some number to the end of our equation y equals square root of x. So if we have y equals the square root of x plus some number, that means I've taken that original square root graph and moved everything straight up vertically this many spaces. Okay, so if it's plus 3, I've moved everything up 3 spaces. If it's plus 5, I've moved everything up 5 spaces, and so on. And if it's y equals the square root of x minus k, that means I have taken things away at the end of my equation. I've subtracted a number, and I've moved that graph all down, straight down a certain number of units, okay? This many units, okay, whatever that number is right there, okay? For example, if we look at the graph of y equals the square root of x plus 2, we can see they've given us our original square root graph here in red. It's right here starting at 0, 0, going through 1, 1, and 4, 2, and curving up and flattening out. Okay, there's our original. And then all they've done with this plus 2 on the end is they've moved every point. The 0, 0 point went up 2. Now it's at 2 in the y instead of 0. The 1, 1 went up 2. The 4, 2 went up 2. And out here we're all the way at 9 in the x, 3 in the y, that went up 2 as well. So all we did is move every single point up 2 units in the y, and we now have our new graph that should look exactly the same, but slid up 2 units. Okay? So, this is just the original graph moved up 2 units. Okay, so the original graph moved up 2 units. Now if I were to ask you about the graph of y equals the square root of x minus 3, this minus 3, if we were to describe in words what is happening here, this is just the original square root graph. Moved down 3 units. And the reason that it is moved down is because it's a minus 3 right there. We're taking away 3, minusing 3 from the end of my square root of x. So that is moved down 3 units. Okay, what that graph would look like if I give you a quick sketch. My original graph looks something like this. My new graph is just going to move everything down 3 units. So I'll go here, and then I'll go here, and I'll do something like this. Okay, so it's exactly the same graph, it's just moved everything down 3 units. So this would be -3 right there. Okay? When I ask you what is the graph, I would like you to give me both of these, how it is related to the original graph, as in moved down, moved up, and I would like you to give me a quick sketch as well. It doesn't have to be full graph paper, but a quick sketch like this one here will do just fine for me. Okay? That's moving things up and down. We are adding a number at the very end of our equation. If I want to move the square root function left and right, I am now going to add or subtract a number underneath the square root with the x. Okay, so it's going to be under the square root now instead of outside of it at the end of my equation. This one also, please make note that this one is sort of backwards from what you would imagine. Okay, if I am graphing y equals the square root of x plus some number, and that number is added on inside of the square root, even though it says plus, which would make you think to the right, yes, positive in the x, it's actually not, it's actually to the left. So plus goes to the left. Okay, that's not what you would imagine, but that's the way it is. If you are adding a number underneath the square root, you are going left in the x direction, to the left, more negative in the x. Right? And if you are doing y equals the square root of x minus h, and you are taking away some number under that square root, then you are going to the right that many units. Okay? So this is basically flip-flopped. It's backwards from up and down. Okay? Up, plus means up, minus means down, just like you would expect. When we go left and right, it's the opposite. Plus means left, minus means right. Okay? So if we are to look at the graph of y equals the square root of x plus 3, now please notice that the plus 3 is underneath my square root bar with the x. When I see a number under there, that should tell me left and right. Left and right. And here I am going plus, opposite of plus is left, 3 units. So this is taking the original graph, left 3 units. Right? And we can see that that's what they've done here. They've taken every point, 0, 0, 1, 1, 4, 2, and they have slid them to the left 3 units. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. There's my new graph right here. Okay, so I just took every point that I already knew was on the original graph, and I moved it to the left 3 units because it said plus 3 underneath the square root. Now, if I were to ask you, what is the graph of y equals the square root of x minus 3? Again, please notice that the minus 3 is underneath the square root. And because it is a minus, I know that minus 3 is moving my original graph. Minus right. So minus is right 3 units. And if I gave a quick sketch of that, there's my original square root function. Moving to the right 3 units just puts me here. And I would do something like that. Just takes every point and moves it to the right 3 units. This is what I have done. All right. To summarize, adding or subtracting a number outside the radical, which again is just the square root symbol, moves the graph up if it's a plus, or down if it's a minus. Okay, adding or subtracting a number outside the radical moves the graph up if it's a plus, or down if it's a minus number. Okay? Adding or subtracting a number under the radical moves the graph left if it's a plus, or right if it's a minus. Okay, so adding or subtracting a number outside the radical moves up or down. Okay? Adding or subtracting a number underneath the radical moves the graph left or right. Okay? If you have questions about either of these rules, please make note to ask me in class tomorrow. Otherwise, that's all I have for you tonight. Have a wonderful night.